It is October. It is midnight. Sam is not getting home from work until 3 a.m. So, what does that mean? We are going to start reading some horror novels. Yep, the plan is we are going to get so terrified that by the time Sam gets home from work, I'm hiding in the closet. And also, if you break into my house, don't go to my closet. That's not where I'm hiding, okay? That's not where I'm hiding. But here, so originally I picked out 3 novellas because it felt like a little more manageable to read them. The first one I have is Nothing But Blackened Teeth by Cassandra Kaw. I already don't know how to pronounce the first word, but it's a mansion of sorts, stands abandoned, its foundations resting on the bones of a bride, and its walls packed with the remains of girls sacrificed to keep her company. It's the perfect venue for a group of thrill-seeking friends brought back together to celebrate a wedding. A night of food, drinks, and games quickly spirals into a nightmare as secrets get dragged out and relationships are tested. But the house has secrets too. Lurking in the shadows is the ghost bride with a black smile and a hungry heart, and she gets lonely down there in the dirt. Masterfully turning the classic haunted house story on its head, Nothing But Blackened Teeth is a sharp and devastating exploration of grief, the parasitic nature of relationships, and the consequences of our actions. This is Sam's book, and he's already read it, and I don't think it really left an impression on him, but one of the blurbs is by N.K. Jemisin, and I really like their work. But then Paul Tremblay has a blurb as well, and I'm sorry, Paul, but I don't think you've experienced horrors in life because your books are not very scary. I probably shouldn't say that. Next up, we have What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. I believe the third book of this just came out this week, and I don't know how long this is supposed to be. I didn't really realize it was going to be a series until I saw the second book come out. This is what the back says. I'm a friend of the ushers, I say. The servant nodded gravely at this information. Would you like to come inside? Yes, I said, aware that I was lying. I did not want to go into the tired house dripping with fungus and architectural eyes, but Madeline had summoned me here, and here I was. A gripping and atmospheric reimagining of Edgar Allan Poe's The Fall of the House of Usher from Hugo Lucas and Nebula award-winning author T. Kingfisher. I am a big fan of Edgar Allan Poe. I kind of rock with his work. I've only read one book so far by T. Kingfisher, but she feels like an author that I'm going to really like. So I keep meaning to give her more of a shot, but I just haven't. So maybe starting here will bring me something. And then the last novella I picked out is Mapping the Interior by Stephen Graham Jones. Sam, this is also Sam's book. He read it, and I believe he rated it 5 stars, so he had a good rating on this. Back of the book here says, a horrifying inward-looking novella, Mapping the Interior is a literary horror tale about race and America deeply rooted in the contemporary Native American experience. Blackfeet author Stephen Graham Jones delves into his characters' conflicted feelings towards their ancestry, haunted as they are by the ghost of the father whose death severed their ties to the reservation. Walking through his own house at night, a 15-year-old thinks he sees a person in full Blackfeet regalia step through a doorway. Instead of the people who could be there, his mother or his brother, the figure reminds him of his long-gone father, who died mysteriously before his family left the reservation. When he follows it, he discovers his house is bigger and deeper than he knew. This one I feel like is going to make me really sad. And I've also only read one other book by Stephen Graham Jones, and that was Buffalo Hunter. But this is one of Sam's favorite authors, so I've been meaning to read all of his works besides the Indian Lake trilogy because multiple people have said that they don't really vibe with it, so I don't think I'm going to check that one out. Again, another blurb from Paul Tremblay. I guess he can have good opinions and have not scary books. I guess those things can be true at the same time. But then the reason I'm wondering if should I read another book is because I just signed up for a subscription box that is coffee and fantasy books, okay? And you can substitute the coffee for hot chocolate and tea. I signed up for the one where it rotates every month what you get, and I didn't realize that this month's book was also going to be a horror book. It's a lot longer, so that's why I don't know if it'll make it in this video or not, but it's Play Nice by Rachel Harrison. I have read So Thirsty by this author. I kind of felt whatever about that book. It didn't really grip me, and it wasn't really, I don't know. I don't like when horror is just somebody turns into a vampire and now they have to deal with being a vampire, because in my head, that's just day to day life. You know, am I a vampire? No. But I don't know, there's just something not scary about that to me. Another note from Paul Tremblay right at the top: Paul, you were giving your blurbs out like crazy, but I respect you supporting other authors. So, again, Paul, you don't deserve the hate that I'm giving you at all. I apologize. You're probably a very nice person. This is what Play Nice is about. Cleo Louise Barnes leads a picture perfect life as a stylist and influencer, but beneath the glossy veneer, she harbors a not so glamorous secret. She grew up in a haunted house. Who cares? Okay, haven't we all? Sorry. Well, not haunted, possessed. After Cleo's parents' messy divorce, her mother Alex moved Cleo and her sisters into a house occupied by a demon. Or so Alex claimed. That's not what Cleo's sisters remember or what the courts determined when they stripped her of custody after she went off the deep end. But Alex was insistent. She even wrote a book about her experience in the house. After Alex's sudden death, the supposedly possessed house passes to Cleo and her sisters, where her sisters see childhood trauma. Cleo sees an opportunity for house flipping content. Only as the home makeover process begins, Cleo discovers there might be some truth to her mother's claims. As memories resurface, Cleo finally reads her mother's book. The presence in the house becomes more real, and the sinister revealing ugly truths that threaten to shake Cleo's beautiful life to its very foundation. Another cool little thing about this box is I did get assigned, which it's a sticker, so I can stick it in my book or I don't have to stick it in my book, but a signed thing from the author. And then the author also wrote a letter. I haven't read it yet, but she wrote a letter and she made a playlist for the haunted house book, which I know a lot of people can't do this. I love listening to music while I read, as long as it's not like a super distracting song. So when people make playlists for their books, I'm actually a major fan of that. Another note is they bring up renovating a haunted house. When I was a child, my parents bought a duplex, but they bought both halves in order to renovate it into one house, because each floor was just one bedroom, one bath, and there was 5 of us or 6 of us at the time. I think there were 6 of us at the time. And so the first floor, we renovated the kitchen into a bedroom, and my bedroom was the living room of the upstairs. And let me tell you, that house was definitely haunted, and I think it really hated that we were renovating the house. Like, it felt like it made it matter that we did all of that stuff. We pulled up all of the puke green carpet that was everywhere, and there was hardwood under the carpet. Crazy. That's just my TV turning to fish mode. But anyways, that's a little lore backdrop, so that's why I'm kind of interested in reading this one, because I feel like I've already experienced this, but I was a kid, so I didn't really care that the house was haunted. I just thought it was funny. Felt worse for my sister because their dead bats just kept appearing in her room. She's the one who lived in the kitchen. So glad I did not sleep in the kitchen, because I think they were really mad that we ripped up the kitchen. So, sorry. Anyways, I will check back in when I either have something to say about the books or when I'm done with the books. And I know you guys, I'm sorry, Bisons, you don't show a lot of love to my book videos, and they are the videos I love to make the most. My channel is originally going to just be a book channel. So to see those videos be not liked by people, really know how to rip a girl's heart out. But anyways, I'm going to keep making the videos because I like making them. I have now finished all 3 books. I was going to do a check-in after each book, but in between when I filmed the intro of this video and now, I had the flu and lost my voice for like 9 days. Like, it was gone for a while, and I also still sound pretty nasally. I apologize. But I ended up only being able to read sometimes with flu brain. I did have a fever that was making things a little bit crazy, but I did finish the 3 books, so I'm going to check in on those now. So some disclaimers before we start talking about the books is I will offer up a summary and then an analysis of my thoughts on that book. I was originally going to do all spoiler free, but spoiler for the video, there was a book I really hated, and I feel like I have to talk about everything I hated about it, and that will spoil the entire book. So I'll give heads up whenever we reach spoiler territory. Once we reach that territory, you can just skip to the next chapter in the video, and it will bring you back to the next spoiler-free section. So just a heads up, that's going to be our structure. So we're going to start off with What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. The genre is gothic horror fantasy. We follow our main character, Alex, who is a sworn soldier from their country. So it's like it's a specific identity you have when you agree to be a part of the army in this country. So that's their kind of character, is this sworn soldier. And their childhood friend Madeline is dying. They receive a letter in the mail. So they go to visit her in her ancestral home, which is completely decrepit. It's falling apart. There is mold everywhere. There's trees growing through the windows. It is just not in a good state at all. Like, you could fall through the ceilings at points. Like, the house is in disrepair. And another thing Alex notices is they want to bring some meat onto the table because Madeline's family's not doing very well. And they're like, I'll bring down a deer or something, and then we can all have venison, and then maybe Madeline will feel better with a little meat in her system. Then they realize that the animals are not acting right at all. Like, they're behaving very strangely, and it's every animal. It's not just one. And they also receive warnings from some local people that nobody kills the animals in this area. So that's another thing worth note besides the creepy house. And what we kind of follow is Alex trying to solve the mystery of Madeline's illness before it takes her life. So it does kind of have a little bit of a mystery element that you follow along. As far as my thoughts on this book, I thought it was very eerie, and I definitely think the gothic vibes were strong. Also in the house, besides Alex and Madeline, we have Roderick, which is Madeline's brother. And then we have Denton, who is an American doctor, and he was a doctor during some war in America. I'm not sure if it was like the Civil War or whatever it was. His experience as a doctor is basically just amputation. And so he's there to kind of comfort Roderick and Madeline, but he knows that he cannot diagnose what's wrong with Madeline because he's like, I can chop your arm off, but I can't solve this illness. So that's kind of our group we have going here. And I liked how it started out very slice of life, almost. Like, it was kind of just vibes, no plot for a little bit. And you just noted these creepy things that were happening. And they were easy to dismiss elements. Like, you could have read something and just kind of moved on and not really thought about it twice. And they ended up being very vital to the mystery element of the story, which I like that because I'm constantly missing stuff. I will dismiss something immediately if I think it's not important. So I like when I misjudge little elements like that in stories. This slice of life factor starts to get more and more creepy, and you get more and more questions. Things are not making sense. And I really liked that turn of a realistic beginning of, hey, I'm just visiting my friend, and I don't know what's wrong with my friend, to something sinister is happening to my friend. This is also a series, and so I'm curious as to what the second and third books are about, because you do get a pretty good wrap up at the end. And from what I saw in Goodreads, it looks like we still follow our main character, Alex, just in different situations. But I do want to read the next two books, and I really like T. Kingfisher's writing in this. I think she's a really good writer. Though I liked in her author's note, she talks about the inspiration of The House of Usher for this book. And she also mentions that she read Mexican Gothic by Sylvia Morano Garcia and was like, this author's way better than me. I shouldn't even write books anymore. And I thought that was kind of funny to include in this book, that was an inspiration, but at the same time, she was like, I'm not going to live up to that book. So now it makes me kind of want to read Mexican Gothic at her recommendation. Now, okay, well, I guess my rating of this book was 4 stars. Now, pause. I'm going into the spoiler section of this story. It's not going to be too crazy because I just enjoyed the book, so I don't have too many spoiler things to say. If you don't want to be spoiled, skip to the next chapter in the video. Some elements I really liked about this story is there's this scene where Alex goes and shoots a bunny and just like right through the neck, and the bunny gets up, hops away, and then joins a circle of other bunnies, and they all just stand up in a circle and stare at each other while this bunny's head is like hanging off of its body because it got sliced. And so obviously that bunny shouldn't be alive. And why are all the bunnies in a circle? But the way the scene was described was very creepy. And I love when just weird, unexplainable stuff happens and you kind of have to just be like, no one's going to believe me that I saw this. I really liked that element. I really liked the white hairs on Madeline. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but Alex kept noticing these really white hairs on Madeline and being like, is it normal to have this much hair? And then the hairs kept falling out and Alex is like, why are all of these hairs falling out? I thought that was a good creep factor. It still left in quite a bit of mystery as to what was going on. This is a mushroom forward story, and I really enjoy mushrooms. I don't know much about mushrooms, but I like how I like the show where they go out and try and find chicken in the woods. I'm pretty sure that's a kind of mushroom, and that's the whole show is they just run through the forest and try and find chicken in the woods. So I do enjoy mushroom content. Yeah, I guess I'm not going to spoil it too much. I think with those things, you might not even count them as spoilers, but I just wanted to be careful because I feel like with horror, I really like going in completely blind. I don't want people to tell me anything about these stories. Yeah, that was What Moves the Dead. Next up, I read Nothing But Blackened Teeth by Cassandra Caw. The genre here is paranormal horror. And what we have going on is we have a group of friends who are all meeting in Japan at this haunted mansion for basically like an elopement of two of the friends in their friend group. And the premise of the haunting of this mansion is that there was a bride there who was supposed to get married, but the husband to be on the way died. And so the bride was left waiting in the house and died waiting for her husband to be to show up. And now every year, a girl or woman is sacrificed in the house to this bride in order to keep her from being lonely. That is kind of the story behind the mansion. You can probably imagine that, it starts off just friends hanging out in a house and then just develops from there and gets more and more sinister. I have to warn everyone, I hated this book. I really did not like this book at all. And I feel like I have so many reasons. I feel like I'm not even going to remember everything as to what I hated. Something that grinded my gears about the story is that the main character is very pretentious and is very uptight and is really focused on how smart they feel like they are. And this character, her name is Kat. She had just had a mental health crisis and was in the hospital, and so right now she's kind of recovering from that. So that's her backstory. So this friend group of 5 people grew up together in Malaysia, so that's how they all know each other. And now they're a little bit post-college, like they're 24-ish is like the age range, and Talia and Faz are the ones who are getting married in this house. And Philip, who is the rich friend. He's the one who financed everything to get everybody to Japan. And it was like first class tickets, renting this mansion, like it was all funded on Philip's dime. So his personality traits in this book are that he has blonde hair. He was a football player at some point in time. He literally shows up in his varsity jacket to this wedding. The main character constantly talks about how she wants to have sex with him, but everyone wants to have sex with him. So that was weird. And he's just kind of the rich himbo. It's kind of his vibe. And then Lynn is another friend who's just there attending for the wedding in this friend group. He recently got married. He ghosted Kat during her mental health crisis. And it seems as if no one in the friend group likes Lynn except for Kat, which makes even less sense because Talia, the bride-to-be, hates Kat and regularly comes up to her to just verbally fight with her, and kind of unclear why she hates Kat, but also at the same time, this is one of those friend groups where everyone has slept with everyone for some reason, except they don't talk to each other about it or tell each other, so they just start dating a different friend and then find out that that friend had slept with their other friend. Like it's just, I can't imagine being in that friend group. Sorry, that has never happened to me, and it never will. Talia is kind of portrayed to be like the bee of the story. She's the bee, and Fayaz, the husband to be, is kind of like the chill mediator. Like he's kind of the guy who's trying to settle everyone down, and he seems to like Kat. Like he seems to be Lynn and I guess all of the guys like Kat, but Talia does not like Kat. So maybe that's why Talia doesn't like Kat. But everyone seems to hate Lynn besides Kat. And Philip and Fayaz have this really weird beef with each other that's kind of under the surface because he had slept with his bride before they got together. So it wasn't like a cheating situation, but still a little weird that there was a situation there. And Philip has never talked to Fayaz about this at all. He has just kept it as a secret. So basically, at the start of the book, we were just getting all of this information on this friend group. And the whole time, you just have to sit there and wonder and be like, how are any of these people friends? They don't seem like anyone likes each other. They all just seem to randomly decide that they want to sleep with each other, but then they also hate the person afterwards. So it's like, why, when these two were going to Japan to elope, did they invite these people? Because it seems like they don't want them there, especially Lynn. Doesn't seem like either of them wanted Lynn to be there. So it's hard to believe that this situation would happen because how did they get everyone to Japan who they all hate and who they don't get along with? If I'm having a destination wedding and eloping, it's because I'm only inviting like a handful of people and they're, like they're my day ones. I hated that aspect. Also, the writing just took me immediately out of the story. It's a very purple prose, which I had to look that up because so many reviews were like, the prose is so purple, it's almost black. And I was like, what does that mean? Just means like the writing is so flowery, like it's so out there. It was just like, it took me on a story because every other sentence was Kat going off in this tangent in her head of similes, and it just was like, okay. And also, I think one of the characters is half Japanese, but none of them are from Japan. And Kat researched, well, she studied Japanese literature in college, so she has a little bit of background with Japanese, and she initially like hears whispers from the ghosts in Japanese, and the book just doesn't tell you at all what that means. Like, yes, you could Google translate it, but I was listening to this book when I was driving, and it was like, I was driving for 4 hours, so that's why I turned an audiobook on, so I couldn't like pause to figure out what was being said. And normally if something's in another language than the book is written, the following sentences either straight up tell you the translation or they give you context clues as to what could have been said. But it's just said and then no reference to it as the text moves on. So that was a little puzzling of a choice. Also, the house is a classic Japanese style mansion that I personally don't know anything about that architecture style, but Kat uses a bunch of Japanese words to describe the architecture and what she's looking at. And when you're listening to this in audio format and you can't just translate everything or look up what everything is, I just didn't know what anything looked like because, it wasn't like, oh, the floors were shiny white. It was like, the floors were word in Japanese, and it's just like, okay, and then move on. So it was just hard to read. It just wasn't as accessible in audio format that way, where you were just kind of expected as the reader to just understand everything. There was also references to Japanese folklore like yokais and different ghosts like that, which my only exposure to that is phasmophobia. So I'm sorry, I don't know the Japanese folklore with their different ghosts and demons, but it would have been nice to develop a little bit into that instead of just yokais showing up and doing something, because it kind of reduced the fear element, because it's like, what are the yokais? What are they known for? Why are they here? It's just, that really took me out of the story. And this book was written for a Western audience. Like, this was not a Japanese novel, that got translated into English. Like, this was a fully English novel anticipated to be read by a Western audience. And so I feel like it's just a little confusing on the writing choices like that. They also kept breaking the fourth wall while talking to each other. They were all talking at the beginning like, well, of course something terrible is going to happen. One of us is going to be dead by the end of this. And they're all just like, yep, yeah, someone's going to die. And then a character will be like, I heard a noise. I'm going to go after it because this is my protagonist moment. And it was like, And then they would stop and be like, in horror movies, this is when this and this would happen. And it's like, okay. And that also took me out of the story. Like, there's just so many things where I'm like trying to get into the story, but I'm pulled back out because something is either explained in Japanese, the writing has so many similes, I forgot what we were even talking about in the first place, or a character is breaking the fourth wall and basically spoiling what is going to happen next because, I'm sorry, the book still follows the cliches it's making fun of. So that was just puzzling, and I just couldn't get over how many times Kat brought up that Philip was an ex-football player and that he was blonde and that she thought he was really hot. Like, that just got brought up so often. Like, I'm sorry, I don't I think it's really cringe to be 24 years old and wearing your Letterman's jacket to a wedding in Japan. Like, I feel like we were supposed to like Philip to some degree, and I was just like, I don't care about Philip. And then the ending just made me so mad because another thing about the writing is it would just be very vulgar at times, and it felt like the vulgarity was used to be like, wow, look how brash this story is. Really got you there, but you weren't expecting me to use the F word 50 times. And it's like, actually, that's not that strange in horror, but it was just done so often that that also took me out of the story. Like, when I tell you every page there was a new reason that it was taking me out of the story, it's like it didn't want me to read the story. But so, full spoilers, this is how the book ends. So Talia gets taken by the bride ghost, obviously. No one is surprised here. And Fayaz is freaking out because this is his bride. And he's like, there has to be a way that we get her back. There has to be a way. And then I don't remember who, but someone's like, in stories like these, there's always a library with a book that tells you what to do. And everyone's like, yeah, let's go to the library and find the book that tells you what to do. And they legit find a library and find a book that tells them what to do. And it's basically like someone has to die. So this is what the book said. This is going to be vulgar, so just a heads up. The book said to get her back, you need a bit of blood, a bit of cum, a bit of bone, and a bit of organ. Why did we need the second one there? Like, that's just kind of an example of just adding vulgarity to just make it more jarring. And so what ends up happening is after Talia gets taken by the ghost, Fayaz and Philip just start fist fighting each other. And it's really unclear why they started fist fighting each other. And Lynn and Kat are just kind of sitting back and being like, Fayaz doesn't normally get angry, but when he does, someone's gonna die. So they sit there fully knowing that Fayaz could kill someone if angered enough. And he's sitting here beating Philip to death. And they're just also standing in the room like, yeah, had a feeling this was gonna happen. And it was like, no one's going to do anything about that. After Philip is just bludgeoned to death, they think about the book and they go, well, we could use his blood and organs for this ritual. Like, we could get Talia back. And again, if they're friends, how did Fayaz beat Philip to death? I can't imagine being so mad at any of my friends that I kill them. Just this friendship makes no sense with anyone. So since Philip is dying, they're like, well, we might as well take advantage of this and get Talia back so we don't lose two people in one night. And so they perform this ritual and it just works and Talia's back. And Philip just dies. And they just leave Philip in the house and stage an accident and just go home. And so he's dead. They don't get blamed for the murder. The cover-up works. And they just kind of go on with their lives. And that's that. And I'm just sitting here like, what was the point of this book? I feel like I need to find an example of some of the writing that just makes me so mad. So here's kind of an example of where the writing is a little bit flowery and then a little bit vulgar, and it feels like it's just vulgar for the sake of being like, this is a horror book, so we don't shy away from things like this. But it doesn't add anything to the story, so here's what it is. My gaze drifted, moved until it came to rest on the Fusuma. There were images of marketplaces teeming with black-lipped housewives, raccoons darting between. I squinted. No, not raccoons. Tanuki, with their scrotums dragging behind them. Someone even painted the fine hairs, had made it a point to emphasize how the testes sat in their gunny sacks of tanned skin. Somehow the profanity of the art repulsed me less than the undergrowth in which Philip stood. The ferns grew knee-high, curled against his calves like vegetal cats. We could have just looked at the paintings. We didn't need to detail the hair on the balls of this animal. And again, this doesn't add anything to the story. But yeah, it didn't feel like anything was said. It was just a group of 5 who grew up together, who should not be friends anymore, who treat each other terribly, and they're all selfish, and no one had a good personality, and you couldn't root for literally anyone in this book. You don't even care that Philip gets beaten to death, because who cares about Philip? You don't even know why he got beat to death, but okay. At least Talia's back, I guess, even though she was mean to everyone. So yeah, you have no one to root for. You don't care about anyone. The story tells you ahead of time what it's going to do because it's trying to break the fourth wall for some reason. The writing is so flowery that you forget what we're even talking about. And Kat is just a terrible person to be in the mind of. That was nothing but blackened teeth. I rated the book 2 stars. Could have been a 1 star, but I've definitely read way worse books. And like, even though the writing was so flowery, it at least was a connected story. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I rated it 2 stars, because I could see some people liking it if that's their thing, but it really wasn't for me. And based on the Goodreads reviews, it seems like it wasn't really a good one for anybody. Now, lastly, I read Mapping the Interior by Stephen Graham Jones. The genre of this is horror, magic realism, and kind of lit fic is kind of the vibes here. In this book, we are following a 12-year-old boy navigating life off the reservation with a dead father, a younger sibling with special needs, and a single mother trying to make ends meet. Junior, who's our 12-year-old, thinks he sees his father dressed in dancing regalia. And from there, Junior tries to piece together what this could mean. He wants to know, why is his father back, and what are the consequences of him coming back, basically. This book did a really good job of exploring grief and how it can look on different people. Junior was 4 when his father mysteriously drowned. That is how he died. And so he grieves more so the lack of a father than his actual father himself. He regularly recounts how when his father drowned in that lake, he was dying of pneumonia. He was at home, super sick, and his dad was out in the woods. So we kind of learned very early on that Junior's father wasn't really around even when he was alive. And then we also explore Dino, who's Junior's younger brother with special needs, and how he kind of grieves the situation and how he goes through it, where he was 1 when their father died, and so things look different for him as well. And then also the mother grieves in her own way as well. To me, I would say this book was more sad than it was scary. I guess the scary element was more of a suspense than like a thrill. You follow Junior kind of reckon with him not being very happy with how his parents parented him. He's not really satisfied with his treatment, and he hopes to one day break the cycle. He doesn't want to end up like his father. He wants to be different. Through the writing, which I loved, I really liked the writing in this book. It felt so realistic that you're in the head of a 12-year-old. Always on Stephen Graham Jones books, I find reviews where people complain about the writing style, but I think Stephen just writes real people. His writing feels like you're in the head of a real person, and I personally really like that, and I feel like it's really easy to get into the story because of that. I felt like this book was really easy to read. I flew through it, but also I feel like this author has a lot of symbolism in his works that is very easy for me to miss. And because of that, I really wish I could read his books with like a group of people. I would like to be able to discuss with others and hear what they picked up that I had missed. I think it would be a more fuller experience. So now on to more of kind of some spoilers on this end of this book. There was a point where Junior believes that his dad is living underneath their house. This house is on a cement slab. There's a gap where like different house piping and stuff is underneath. And so Junior goes underneath the house and he finds this like nest of sorts. And I wasn't sure if that was where his dad was coming from or what was happening. The paranormal aspect of this I was very confused about. I kind of wished that the bottom of the house had more of a horror aspect. I feel like it wouldn't have taken away from the grief story if we kind of found this terrifying layer underneath the house. I feel like it could have added, but so that was a little bit of a disappointment to me. I wish that was developed a little bit more. And then throughout the story, his dad becomes stronger and stronger on the physical plane. Like he's starting to become actually present and leaving footfalls. And Junior finds out that how he's getting stronger is he's sucking the life force out of Dino, his younger brother. And he has like a mark behind his ear where this like ghost vampire is sucking the life out of Dino. And because of this, Dino is starting to have physical health complications that are very concerning. Like he's having regular seizures. And so that's where Junior kind of decides maybe it's not a good thing that my dad is coming back. Like maybe he is a danger to my brother and I. And so instead it turns from reconnecting with his father into being like, I need to kill my father again. Like my dad needs to be dead. He cannot be coming back, especially not at the expense of my brother. And I really liked that sinister turn for the ghost. Because at first when I read the back, I thought the ghost was going to come back and teach Junior some important things about the reservation that he didn't know since he stopped growing up on the reservation after his dad had died. So I thought it was going to be more of like reconnecting with his culture. But it ended up being this sinister note that I thought was very interesting. And then the end of the story, I saw a lot of reviews say that the ending was pretty rushed. I agree we could have added maybe a couple of more pages to the ending just to have it feel a little more fleshed out, but we find out that Junior accidentally has a child with someone as an adult, and he is not involved in this child's life at all, and he kind of feels like he's being his father here, and then that child ends up dying in an accident, and Junior decides to take Dino back to their house that they grew up in and sacrifice him in order to get his son back the way his father was coming back. So he goes from saving Dino from this ghost to then sacrificing Dino for a different ghost for his child. And it kind of shows that Junior did not break the cycle like he had hoped, which honestly is a realistic ending. It is not easy to break the cycle, especially where Junior is coming from, where there's systematic things in place to make sure he stays in the cycle. Like, the world was not made for him to succeed, so he's going to have a tougher time than anyone else in this situation. So I feel like the ending was very realistic and very heartbreaking all at the same time. And I feel like it wrapped it up well. I saw some people not really jive with the ending, but I think it ended well and forced you kind of to reflect again on the story after you read it. I saw this one review on Goodreads that had everything finally click into place for me. I was feeling like I was missing some pieces. Berengaria's review on Goodreads claimed that the story explored patricide, which is children killing their father. Their review says Junior must kill off his father in order to become a man. He is on a time crunch as the vampiric ghost is sucking the life force from his own children in order to become stronger. It represents an egotistical father willing to destroy his child's lives in order to get closer to his dreams. Because a little bit of background about the father is the reason him being in dancing regalia is important is that everyone thought he was a very good dancer and they thought he should compete in powwows. And instead of following that path, he kind of fell off a little bit in high school and then ended up not really doing anything with his life. So the dancing regalia shows a version of their father where he actually followed his dreams and went through with it. So I thought that was a very interesting view of Junior having to kill his father in order to truly become the man of the house. And he's 12. So it makes sense for him to start having those feelings of, I need to step up. I'm now the man of the house. My dad is not here. He's coming of age. So I thought that was a very good insight, and I was really glad I read that review because I feel like it really encompassed everything. I rated this book 4 stars. My spouse and his brother both rated it 5 stars, and I was kind of thinking about it, and I was like, I think this book works a lot better if you are a man. Like, I think there was some kind of disconnect for me in the story where, like, as a woman, I didn't relate as much to what Junior was struggling with the dynamic of his family. So I feel like I would definitely encourage, if you're a man interested in reading this book, I definitely would encourage it more. I think Sam said he really connected with the book and really felt like he understood Junior. So yeah, I think it could have been 5 stars if I was a man and I related a little bit more, but it was still really good, and I still would recommend it to people, especially if you're unfamiliar with Native American culture. I think it helps give a little slice of life into what things are really like. So especially if you are not aware of those things, I think this would be a good book to check out. But all in all, I really loved What Moves the Dead. Loved it. Really hated this book and really liked this book. This is a book that I'm going to be thinking about for a long time. I think that's why it's staying at the 4-star rating, is it's going to sit with me for quite a while. Yeah, that's everything. I hope you guys are reading tons of horror books this October. I've actually been reading a lot of seasonal books this year. I feel like normally I don't actually end up doing that, but have you read any horror books this year that have really stood out? If so, comment those books down below. Have I put you on to any of these books? If so, comment down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. But I hope you guys are having a good spooky season and are really enjoying the fall weather and enjoying the leaves changing. But thank you all for watching. I hope to see you in the next one. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.